Hello, I'm Alida Bailard of Surrey Accountancy Services, and today I want to tell you the story of Bill and Ben and how they're helped by their bean counter to grow or not. So let me introduce you to Bill and Ben. There's Bill and there's Ben. They both have very, very similar businesses. They're both very, very passionate about what they do, and unsurprisingly, they are actually in the landscape business and nurseries and flowers and things like that. Bill and Ben both have the same attitude towards their numbers in that they're basically scared of them, which is very common in lots of small business owners. But they have very different attitudes to their numbers. So this story is really about their experiences with how they've run their business, how successful they've been, and hopefully it's going to give you some food for thought. Okay, so I'm going to start with Bill. So Bill has the same business as Ben in that it's landscape gardening and nurseries and things. Oh, by the way, this whole presentation is a little bit cheesy, so watch out for that cheese. So Bill runs a company called Bill and Hope. And he recognises that actually you do need to have some numbers in running your business, but as I said, he's quite nervous about it. So what he's decided is he recognises that he needs to have a look at how much revenue his business is bringing in every month. So he has decided to have a graph that looks like this, so his company's called Bill and Hope. There's all the numbers that are his targets every month, and those are all the months of the year along the bottom there. And this straight line that goes up is the way that Bill has decided that he wants to set his targets. And what he does, he starts off his year and he tracks how he's doing against his target, and everything's going fine. And he thinks, okay, cool, everything's working really, really well, everything's going fine, and he stops tracking this and he carries on his year. And what happens is there are changes in the number of people that are coming through, and his revenue is going, or people aren't spending as much as they would ordinarily spend. So Bill doesn't know what to do about it. He doesn't really have anybody that he can go to for advice. So he decides to do something very easy, and that he's just going to put the prices down. Now, of course, when you put your prices down, his costs are still the same. And because his costs are still the same, he's making less money. And because he's got less money to be able to pay for his staff and running of the nursery and all his vehicles and things like that. So it starts to become a problem. And it starts to become a problem with his cash flow. And his wife isn't very happy because he's having to put some money from their personal funds into the business. His bank manager isn't very happy because the overdraft is being pushed into and he keeps wanting to have it increased. And his staff aren't very happy because he's actually quite stressed, having to fight fires all the time. And it becomes a really, really difficult year, but he doesn't really have anybody to talk to. He doesn't have any good business advice. He doesn't have a great relationship with his accountant. So he doesn't really know what to do other than carry on. But he carries on with his year, and he then gets towards the end of the year and he thinks, right, let me have a look to see how I'm actually doing. And he starts tracking it again towards the end of the year and realizes that actually, yes, things have improved, but not enough for him to be able to achieve his targets. And so it feels quite rubbish. It's not had a good time. And he just wishes it had been different, but he sort of knows, okay, I don't really know what to do differently. He goes to his accountant, as lots and lots of business owners do, with his shoebox full of all the receipts that he has for all of his purchases and all the sales invoices, and he gives them to his accountant in good faith. I told you there was cheese. And the accountant puts together the statutory accounts for the year, and he goes through the accounts with Bill and talks about all the various things that appear on the profit and loss and the balance sheet. And Bill doesn't really understand all of it because the accountant talks in accountanese, but he doesn't really feel very confident to be able to say, I'm really sorry, but I don't understand that. Would you mind explaining it? So that's Bill. He's had a really, really difficult year. He doesn't feel well supported. He's had to fight fires quite a lot, and hasn't really known what to do to make a positive difference to his business. So now I want to talk about Ben. And this one's Ben. So Ben has, as I said, similar business to Bill, has the same sorts of feelings about numbers, but recognises that the fact that actually they are really, really powerful and really, really important to understand what's going on in your business. And so he decides that it is important enough to do something about it and make sure that he attracts the right people into his business. And one of them is the perfect accountant, who gives him lots of good views of his business, or helps him see lots of good views of his business from his numbers, and one that understands his business well enough to be able to give him good advice. So Bill makes the decision that actually he wants to be able to plan who he's going to be targeting next year. And actually what he wants to do is, part of his business plan is to go for more local authorities and schools business. So he starts his year, he tells all his staff what his goals and his plans are, which always works, because the more people that you are accountable to, the more likely you are to achieve your goals. And as I said, he also recognizes that he needs to he needs to recognize how he's doing for his revenue targets as well as his gross profit targets. And for those of you who aren't sure, your gross profit is whatever your income is, whatever you sell, take away your cost of sale, so anything that any expenditure that is external to your business, that gives you your gross profit. And with your gross profit, you use that money to pay for all your fixed costs, so your rent, your rates, your accountancy fees, your staff, all those types of things. So he recognizes that he needs to track both his revenue targets as well as his gross profit targets. And Ben's company is called Ben and Fit. And this is what Ben uses for both his revenue targets as well as his gross profit targets. And similarly to Bill, you've got the numbers down here and the months of the year along there. The purple columns are his revenue targets. Now, Ben recognizes that his business is quite cyclical. Obviously, they get busier around Christmas with Christmas trees and things, and Easter and all sorts of different things. But he decides that the best targets for him is a straight line one. And so that's why all the columns are the same height. So Ben starts off his year, and as you can see, the sort of maroony columns are his actual revenue that he's been able to achieve that particular month. And as you can see, he's not achieving his targets. Now, because Ben tracks this every single week, every single month, and he makes a point of understanding what they're saying, both on his revenue targets as well as making sure he's making enough gross profit to pay for all of his fixed costs, he realizes there's a problem early enough to do something about it. And he's got a great relationship with his accountant, so he phones them up and he says, look, I recognize that there's a problem here. What do you suggest? How can we make it so that we can do something differently? So with working with his accountant, they decide to look at historical information, and so they produce this pie chart. What this pie chart shows, it's a spread of historical clients. So it provides Ben the view of who's already spending money with him. So we've got the nurseries here, garden centres there, landscape gardeners, and schools and local authorities. And if you remember what I said, Ben's target, he planned to get more business with schools and local authorities. The problem with that, given his revenue targets and the fact that he's not achieving them, is that he needs to, the local schools and authorities, it takes 4 months in order for it to convert from a proposal to a sign-up, and he doesn't have enough time. So he decides, using this information, to market to the people who are already spending money and get them to upsell other services and things like that. And because of that, he's been able to overachieve for the rest of his year. So the net effect is that he achieved his target for the whole year. So that was a really, really good year for Ben. He set himself a target, he set himself some goals, he shared that with the people that work for him and care about him, and he has the numbers that he looks at all the time, so that he recognized that there was a problem well in advance in order to do something about it, used the support that he has and the great relationship that he's got with his accountant to then be able to change his marketing strategy, still keep going on the schools and local authorities, but change his marketing strategies and achieve his goals. Now, I did this presentation with Bill and Ben a while ago, and I asked them these questions, and I wonder what you would say, how you would answer these 5 questions. The first question is, would your accountant be able to explain your business to someone else? Does your accountant know what the goals and ambitions you have for your business are? Does your accountant explain your business figures in a way that makes sense to you? Do you regularly look at your business figures and use them to make proactive and informed decisions? And finally, do you have a great relationship with your business figures? Now, Ben obviously said yes to all of these questions, but Bill, not so many. So, in summary, Let's talk about Bill. He's had a really difficult year. He's had to fight fires. He's had his wife giving him hassle. He's had his bank manager giving him hassle. He's had his staff giving him hassle. He spent the whole year fighting fires and really completely unsure as to what to do. He finishes his year not really understanding or not being sure what he's going to do differently next year, but just knows he's got to do something different. And in fact, he's absolutely exhausted. And the only thing that he's got time for is weed. There we go. Ben now, he's had a completely different experience. He was able to be very proactive in his year. He was able to make informed and timely decisions about his business, and he felt in control the whole time, which felt amazing. And because he was in control, because he knew what was going on, his business just thrived completely. And he had lots of time in his weekends to go in his little white convertible with his flower girl and had a brilliant year. And he knew that next year he was set up to have another brilliant year, and whatever challenges came along, he was able to deal with them. So my question to you is, Bill and Ben, which one are you? And more importantly, which one would you rather be? Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.